hello.
Hi, Denise.
Hi, Michael.
So here we are again.
We are, and we're going to have a little workshop on sewing and completing this costume here, which is a replica of Victoria's, one of her costumes. I don't know if you want to look back here and look at Victoria, because she is still in our presentation on Red Cross.
Our Red Cross,
yes,
because she is a Red Cross.
Red Cross lady. She helped to raise money for the Red Cross during World War II in England and Great Britain. So this is one of her sort of iconic dresses, and such a beautiful color blue. So we thought that we would start off making this one and let people.
And this is on the cover of your book.
It's on the cover of the book, and we thought people might enjoy sewing it.
Well, and you did do a class, a live class.
We did
with
workshop.
us.
Yes, we did a workshop.
And that was very successful. But we're now going. We're going to, because we have members in 66 countries. We're going to go. We're going to teach a lot of people.
Okay.
All right. So where do we begin?
Well, this costume that you see here was made for Victoria and her body, and she's wearing her original costume. So I put this costume on another doll.
And a beautiful one.
It fits pretty well, except you can see it's a little short in the arms. But that brings me to a point in that Victoria is this very specific body. It's a Clement body, but she is a size 4, 18 inches or so doll. As is this. This is a typical size 4 doll, but there are going to be differences. Waistlines are going to be a little bigger or smaller, arms longer or shorter. It might depend whether you have a wooden bodied doll, a kid bodied doll. And so when you do this, you really need to measure and just keep trying the piece and keep measuring.
And wouldn't you say that it might be a very good idea to do this first, and for the fitting part, do it in muslin first?
Yes.
I mean, I know no one wants to do that, but it's, I sometimes just do a half, and then I save a few minutes, or spend a few minutes, and I save a lot of time.
I have done that with jackets or bodices, and sometimes it's hard to get that neckline just right. But with a muslin, or you can do it with paper towel even, whatever you like to use, but you can...
Or any scrap.
You can say this is too long. You can pull it up and then put a piece of tape on it. You can just kind of mold it on the doll, then take it off, and then that becomes your pattern. And
this kit is for an antique doll, so we're not like we're doing the Hiré, the artist Hiré or the artist Romer. We're doing an antique doll, which are all different.
They're all different.
Okay, so we will get started on it.
Okay.
We're going to put her away, and we'll be right back.
Okay. So I thought we'd do a little review of the patterns here, and because they are so large, and they're larger than what we've done before for our shorter 15-inch, 14-inch dolls, that you will have to cut them apart and put them back together again. But you will see there will be an A and an A and a B and a B, so that you can match them up correctly. And you can see that there are stitch lines, and that'll help you later with placement of the ruffles. And another thing is, I always, it doesn't matter how many times you sew, I don't think, but you want to put things together and see how they work. You don't want this one to be, like this, and you can see it doesn't match, because you are doing two of these. No, actually, this is the front. One of these, two of these. So anyway, put them together and see how they match up before you put the lining on. And what I suggest is that you cut the linings out as well with the silk and baste them together.
So flatline them?
Yes, flatline them. And because you do have two, don't make sure that you put this one the other way.
Right.
And
that's...
yes, and then say this is the silk, and then the lining would be on the bottom. And this way, on this side, the silk and the lining would be on the bottom. Because it's very easy to do them, and they all are going the same way, and you have to take them all apart.
And I noticed that when you cut your pattern pieces out, you leave your lines.
I do.
So everybody has a different way of doing it.
It just helps me to see them better, I think.
Yeah, that's good. It just helps.
I guess we all have our own way of doing things.
Helen Keller. Let's go make a dress.
And this is the Polonaise, and this will...
you'll have to explain that, because it is.
Yeah.
It is.
It
doesn't look like it could work.
A little strange, but it does work. What else do I say? Yeah, there's a fold on this one. And then it's the same thing with, and I don't know why, I thought that I had gotten every single piece of the jacket, but it seems I only have the one side and one set of sleeves.
Well, the jacket looks way easier than the skirt.
And that's the, oops, there's another little piece. And that's the other thing about, there is another piece, and it must be, I'm sorry. And that's another thing about cutting out sleeves and make sure they're not all going the same way, because then you'll have all left sleeves or all right sleeves. So.
Because they do have a certain way to go together.
And there will be a line here for the dart. And I cut it out and with a friction pin, sew it right onto the pattern, onto this, probably the cotton, the lining. You can see it better. And that's how I get it.
But we really encourage them, particularly the jacket, to make a mock-up first.
Absolutely, yes.
And if you look at any instructor for high-end sewing for people, they will all tell you the same thing. Make a mock-up first.
Make a mock-up first.
Yes.
Right.
All right. Well, then we'll put this away and we'll go to the next step.
We'll go to the next one. So we have a front panel and two side panels, and I've already flatlined them. This seam I've overcast, so you do want to overcast your seams. This one I didn't bother because this is just, just the sample. Now here's the back. You can see that the seams are all exposed on the garment, excuse me, except for this back panel. And you sew the lining, you sew the silk, and then you put wrong sides together so that when you see it, you see this nice smooth hidden seam. Okay, and then each piece, just roll up, not even a quarter, 3/8 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch, like a double roll, very, very narrow hem, and then hem that. And I have not,
What is that, about a 1/4 inch hem?
Yeah.
But isn't that where they have a little wiggle room too for their doll?
A little bit.
Not too much,
but a little bit. But that's it too. Measure the pattern, measure from the waist to your doll's feet to the extra you want to give them. They'll have a little leeway on their fabric.
Okay.
So
I noticed, Denise, that you have done this by hand.
I have.
Can they use a machine to do this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you certainly can.
Right.
You can. Okay. I haven't done that. And the other thing is, you don't want to put these pieces together yet to form a skirt.
Okay, because we have to do some decorations.
And that seems a little counterintuitive. Usually you would, put it together, but we're not going to do that yet.
Oh, yes, because
we're going to put ruffles on.
And they go into the folds.
They go right up to each of the edges, and then when they're on, then we put it together. Okay. And they will not match up either, because they're not supposed to.
Perfect. So what shall we do?
Well, we're going to look at a ruffle and just see how it's made. And I'm going to take the skirt off the doll and show that as well, because I think that it's like a picture's worth 1,000 words.
It is. Okay.
Okay.
We'll get her undressed and we'll be back.
Okay.
We're back, and we forgot to tell them something, didn't we?
Yes. As I was undressing this doll, you can see that if you don't have the Polonaise on, it's still a pretty dress.
It's a pretty dress. Mm-hmm.
The other thing, it's an extremely simple pattern.
Mm-hmm.
You can do what you want. You don't have to put ruffles on. You can use different fabrics.
Once you have the pattern.
Once you have the pattern. And I think this would be pretty with box pleats.
Mm-hmm.
And then, with the box, and then you can like dip the middle part down, press it down. I think that's very pretty. I just wanted, it's very simple in design. It's just how,
and it totally
look at the
works
sleeves.
without
The sleeves
Polonaise.
yes, and the sleeves are perfectly, they're simple. They're nothing. It's the decoration that is what makes it.
Those little details.
And we were talking about how the ruffles do not come together, and they don't.
No, and we're doing it as the original.
As the original, right. And the ruffles aren't perfectly formed as on the original, which it was fascinating to me. It's almost like they just sort of did it. It's just like,
je ne sais quoi.
Yeah, so that's the way I did it. But you can do it the way you want.
Well, we should do it the way it's the original.
As much as possible. I think that's fun. Okay, we'll take this off. Okay, now we're going to look at the ruffles on this dress. You can see this is the front panel, which we had right here. And there are 2 rows of ruffles.
So they have to make a lot of ruffles.
Yes. And we're not gonna kid you, it takes a while.
No, I mean, I think the class worked a day and a half.
It takes a long time. There's so many stitches, but it's not hard. It's just time consuming. That's all. And you can see how
it's a beautiful trim.
It's uneven. You can make it more even if you like, but this is the way.
Well, you were trying to do it as the original.
As they did. And on the patterns, you can see that there are going to be lines to help with placement of these ruffles. The top line, so top stitching, and then the second line of stitching.
Okay.
And then you can see here, there's a top line of stitching right here, and then the second line right here.
And that's on the lower ruffle too?
Yes.
Okay.
On the front.
Well, I guess if I would have looked at the pattern piece, I would have known.
So, and these are not hard either. This top part is simply, let's see, well, simply, I said simply, didn't I? Here we go. I had pressed it, so it's kind of, but you're just sewing this about 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch down here, and then flipping it over like that to the back. And that's what we have here.
And we're going to make a little bit of this and show them.
Yes. And then you can see the stitching on the back because let's see, you go right here.
Kind of right in the ditch.
It's right there.
Not quite.
Not quite. It's just above because you don't want any.
And you're using blue thread.
I'm using blue thread. So if you look closely, you can obviously see it, but otherwise, from a distance, it pretty much disappears.
Yeah.
You don't have to turn this under on the other side. That just adds bulk, and you don't need it.
Yes, you don't want that.
So just fold it flat and then stitch it down.
And this is a trim style that you see on a tremendous amount of 1870s costumes.
Yes.
60s too, but
60s,
mostly
but
70s.
The bottom piece, and you can see on here it's loose. Now here I tucked it way in and I made this very small. You can make it bigger. You can make it smaller. That's up to you. But you'll take this piece of bias, which it's in the kit and labeled.
Now that's pre-cut, is it not?
This is not for for these kits. For the workshop, things are pre-cut. Otherwise, they will have to cut them, but they'll know they'll know the length, and it's probably most of them are an inch.
We've got a lot of new sewers that are out there. Would you explain to them what bodice is and what the application of that is?
What bias is?
Yeah, bias.
Yes,
we're biased here.
We're very biased. Yes. So you're not cutting straight of grain. You're
at an angle.
At an angle. I've seen people be very, very exact about the angle. I'm not exact. If it gives and it becomes
spongy almost.
Yes.
Yeah. Elastic.
And you want that a lot of times to go around corners, especially. And in this, and the ruffles are on the bias because it just gives them that little extra flounce. So this you would
and
press.
It folds nicely.
It does fold nicely.
Where if you were doing this on the straight, you'd be really struggling.
It folds nicely, and just press it lengthwise like this. This bottom part of the ruffle, so you've already done this top part. This bottom part is just folded over a quarter an inch.
Okay.
Press it this way, press it that way. And to get it to stay like this, a little spritzing. It's almost
You don't have one
magical.
of these bottles.
These bottles are wonderful.
We sell those in the boutique, and
then you slip it in.
So you folded that in half.
Yes.
The pale blue, you folded that just right in half.
Yes.
And now you're going to tuck it into right at the fold.
This little fold that I did. I did two right in this fold and fold it over. And you can see that you can either make it very thin like this or pull it out a little bit.
I think it's best to do thin because then you can get it really. I did a little bit of this at your class, and I was getting wonky, and then but I realized it, and I took it all out and redid it.
Because why?
Because it was wrong.
Because
you told me to.
Yes, because I made you.
Well, I was wrong.
No, but
I can admit it. I was wrong, and I mean,
we all have to take out.
Yes,
Come on,
we
all do.
We do.
Okay, and then where's my little? And then again, I'm just starting right here for us, but and again, you're just going to go right, very, very, very close to it.
And you're not taking super tiny stitches; they're good size.
Yeah.
What about 1/8 of an inch?
Yeah. Okay, so and that'll keep it in.
And that's it.
That's it.
So this is a very, I think this is an excellent trim that they could use on a lot of different garments.
It's one, yes. It's and making it narrower or wider, and it is kept loose. You're not going to sew this down. The only place you sew it is right at the edge.
At the top.
Yes.
All right. Well,
Okay.
we'll get this finished up, and then we'll come back and show them the next step.
Okay. I was trying to finish this up, and it's silk, and it kept bouncing away from me. So I realized I need to press it again, and I spritzed it a little bit. And these little irons are wonderful. Love these little things.
I can't live without them.
Because they're so little and they fit.
But in this instance, this really pressing is key to this.
It is. Every time, every step.
A lot of garments
every step.
have components that are not pressed, but this we need to press.
See, I'm putting it, shoving it in here.
And it was just bouncing out.
It was it's still, I mean, it's silk. It's still, you know, fiddly sometimes to work with, but it is beautiful. Okay.
All right, we're going to pin it and sew it, and we'll
pin
be
it,
back.
sew it, and then put it on. Okay, so the first ruffle I'm putting on is this one on the bottom. And actually, no, it's supposed to be the one. I think I put these on first, and then I put the bottom one on. And then I have the pattern here. I'm going to put it up here. So I've already made the hem, so it's going to come down a little bit there. So at the top.
Yeah, you would make allowances for the hem,
Right.
the pattern piece.
And then,
so you just use your pattern just to gauge it. You don't put any. Oh, what is the word for it? Basting line.
Or basting line across. I don't think you have to do that.
No, I don't think you do, because once you get the sides, and then you'll just.
So this top stitch line of ruffle, it's right where we stitched here on this top part. And then we're going to stitch down there too. But what you need to get is this top part. So I'll
pin it.
Pin it. Let's do that. And then I'm going to come over here. I've got that too. Oops,
and again, make allowance for the hem.
Right. You can always mark with a pen, a friction pen, or a pencil on the edge.
It shows through.
If for me, I can see it right there. And so I'm going to put this one right here. Okay, so we've got it pretty much,
and you're just going to gather it to the skirt, is that?
Yeah, we just need
Oh, you've already done your...
Well, yes, I put a gathering row through here, right underneath where we put the other. Just have to...
And they blend in perfectly.
Yes. I mean, you can gather this certainly beforehand and then pull it.
It's actually kind of easier to do it the way you're doing it.
Whatever works for you. And then this is where you can just sort of fiddle with it a little bit to get it.
It's creating a really lovely ruffle.
And we do put them, and I have that as well. This is the front of the skirt.
It seems to work perfectly.
And just pretty much get it to just do a little. I mean, you just want to see that it kind of
falls into place
a little bit. I think I got this one up a little too. Let's see. Yeah, there we go.
You're adjusting.
Okay, I think I moved it.
This was a lot of work to figure out all these components to...
Yeah. Well, it helps to own the garment.
Oh, yes.
Then it's yours, and you can look at it all different ways, study it, and you're not copying anybody else. It's yours.
And you couldn't do this just from a photograph.
I don't think so. Yeah. Not as well. Okay. And so then you just pin it down like that. And then the next step we will
sew down
we will sew down here, and then we'll sew down another little.
All right. So we will get that sewn and we'll come back.
Yes. So we're just, I was pinning this ruffle on, and we just wanted to kind of reiterate the placement of the ruffle, and using the pattern, putting this on the top, because we haven't messed with this top yet. We haven't folded it over anything. We have messed with the bottom. We've hemmed it. So don't try to measure it from the bottom.
Yeah, this is going to give you a really good reading.
The top will give you, better reading. What I'm going to do, I'm going to mess this up a little bit with a white pen so we can see. So what the next thing I'm going to do is sew right here, right under there, and sew it to this front panel. And then after I do that, I'm going to sew down, about an inch, almost the middle of the ruffle. And so I'm going to put a little mark there so you can see. And then we're going to stitch right here.
So you're going to do the stitching gathering right onto the garment.
Yes.
It's not going to be separate, because then you'd have to do two lines.
I've already gathered, right? I've already gathered it up, and then I'm going to stitch it down.
And just catch those little...
Yes, and before I do that, I am going to, let's see, is this?
We can turn it on. It heats up really fast.
Okay. Okay, there we go. And I think I'll give maybe a little spritz too. Whoops. Okay. It's much easier to do this when it's pressed a little bit. Now these, you can look at the one that's finished. Okay. So you can see that the ruffles are a little flattened. Pretty.
Which is kind of what we want.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it also will make it a little bit easier to sew this. So I don't know if it's quite ready yet, but
so you're just patting it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that will make it easier to sew.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to get it into any kind of shape. It's just going to take the shape it takes.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Makes total sense to me.
Okay.
Very 1870s.
Well, now of course you can, still fiddle with it if you like.
Yeah, you can as you're sewing.
As you're sewing, and it might even move a little as you sew, unless you really pin it down. So that's the next thing I'll do then. Those two lines right under the light and right about an inch below it.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Okay, and I've already stitched this down, the top part of the ruffle, as you can see. And what I want to do is put this other, the second stitch down. So, so that I don't go all crooked here. And sometimes, blue on blue is a little hard to see. I'm just marking it with a friction pen, which I can then
press out.
Yes. So what I've got is about 3/4 of an inch, and then I'm just putting it at the bottom of this blue to here, and just making I'm just going to make a couple of
you're going to connect those marks, with the stitches.
At least so as when I'm going, I don't go way down or way up or really crooked. And I don't know if people love these pens or not, but I really do. I find them helpful.
But they can also use dressmaker's chalk.
Of course,
or whatever,
yeah.
whatever they're comfortable with.
Or they can be really sew in a very straight line.
Well, except you are curving around.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so we'll get
All right,
that
I'll
sewn,
do that.
and we'll show you the results.
Okay, I've sewn down this part as well as this little seam line in here, and then we're going to give it another little press, and I'm going to give it a little squirts without trying to get, there we go. Without trying to get Michael, I was going to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got a little too much there. Okay.
So you're kind of flattening it down.
Yeah, I do.
Which gives it the very 1870s look.
I just press the heck out of everything.
Because, and Denise, that most of the dolls that are going to be wearing this dress are antique dolls.
Yeah.
Because we're doing this for the size 4, so that would be right.
Right. So, it does take a while to make all of these ruffles. So let's just look back.
We're not going to keep them on the camera for that.
Look back on here. So this is the first one we put on. The second one is done just the same. It's a little copy of the first one. And again, you're going to put it where the markings are on the pattern. Fix that, and then it'll go down, and you see that it's just a little bit.
Tiny bit of over.
Here, let me do that. It looks like a 1/2 inch, maybe something like that.
In the front.
In the front. So dip it down, and there is some space between.
It looks like about a 1/4 inch.
Yeah, I mean, well, it looks like there's a little more over here. Again, it's just put on.
We want it to have spontaneity.
Yes.
And then we do the same concept with the back.
With a back. But you don't
bigger.
you don't have to do that top part. See, these are.
Oh, so the back will be easier.
The back is there's a step that you don't have to do.
Okay.
Let's see, I can. So this one is about 3 1/4 inches wide, and then these two are about 2 inches wide. Okay. These are smaller, and then this last one is about 4 1/4 or 3 and 4 1/4, something like that, almost. But the instructions, the measurements are in the instructions, yeah. And then there's just put on like this, and here
you have 3 things going on.
You fold over
the top,
a little, 1/4 inch or so, 3/8, and then sew that together. And I do have 2. I didn't try to do that all in one step. I gathered it, put it on like we did the other one, the front part, by fixing it on the side and then kind of gathering it to fit. And then you sew it down 2 times here.
Okay, perfect.
This one, just
once.
Sew it. This one also. This one also. And then this one dips quite a bit.
Okay. Creates a train.
Yes. Let's see. It looks like 1 3/4.
Okay.
Past the hemline.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right. So then the next thing, what are we going to?
The next thing will be.
The waistline.
Well, no. The next thing will be putting them together.
Okay.
So we will put the side, or the front panel with the back panel.
Okay.
And you'll see how they do not match up. They're not supposed to match up.
Yeah, it creates an interesting look. It does.
And another thing I did, I think it's a little simple, I did sew them down on the sides. And that way they're not going to flip around when you sew the sides together.
So you just a little based on it?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll come back and show you the next step. Okay.
We're back with a few more steps. Since we were together, I sewed up the side seams, which is this front panel to the back panel on the sides. Her anatomical right side is sewn all the way up. Her left side, you'll leave about 5 inches opening on that side. Okay, so I've sewn up to here. Then we folded over the top edge about 1/4 of an inch or so, all the way around.
And that they can use that as their little wiggle room too for the length.
Yes. Okay. And on the right side of the opening, I've just turned it over, 1/4 inch, and sewn it down here. So you've got a little.
And that does give it a nice little weight to it too, doesn't it? Strength. Yes. It looks nice.
And then on this side, we've got a piece about 5 1/4 inches of a placket. And what I've done is folded over about 1/4 of an inch each side, and also the short ends, the long ends and the short ends. This top edge here, see, I've folded it because sometimes it's easier for me to do that ahead of time, and then when I'm sewing it becomes easier. But when you're putting this placket to this side opening here, you want to make sure you don't put it here because we folded over, and this is a folded over edge, so pull it up so that this little folded edge will kind of meet that folded edge, and then start pinning. And then I've opened this one to sew it down, and I'll just use this folded edge as a little guide.
That'll make it easy.
And then when we're here, I'll pin this like this, just so we can show. So this has been sewn down, and then we'll fold it over here like this. Give it about, it's almost 1/2 inch, and then we'll sew it down on this side. So then you've got a nice little placket.
Beautiful little placket. All right, so we'll sew that up, and we'll come back and show you the finished result.
Okay. We have the placket finished now. I've turned it over and sewn it on the back. And the whole back panel of the skirt will be cartridge pleated. See, this is the whole back part.
So could you, Denise, explain to people that might be doing this costume that have never done the mysterious cartridge
This
pleating?
is how we fit this much fabric into a very tiny space. Yards of fabric into inches of space. Very close, maybe a 1/16 of an inch or so from the top. You do the first running stitch, and these, let's see if I can measure anything here. They might be 1/8 of an inch wide and separated. So it doesn't have to be an exact, but we want a pretty small stitch because this is a pretty small waisted doll. If you're doing a bigger doll, you could do bigger stitches. And then the second, you want 2 rows of running stitches, and then about 1/8 of an inch down or so, you'll do the second row, and they follow.
They have to be exact, pretty much.
Yes, as you can, the top one.
And I'm sorry, this is in a dark color.
Well,
so
it's dark on dark, but
yeah.
And then I'm going to get our doll. And so this is the place where we want to fit the skirt.
And everybody's is going to be different.
Yeah, to the doll. I think this should be pretty close on her. So this is the center of the front panel.
And that's flat.
And that is flat. And so we'll just kind of, you can even pin it to kind of let it stay there. And if you want her to have underwear, this is, I mean, you have to fit it to the underwear. If she's going to wear underwear, or however many layers you want her to wear.
You do that now.
She could have a corset, she could have whatever, but this, yes.
You fit it with.
You put all of those clothes on. Yeah, turn her over.
Unless you can really estimate, which could be dangerous.
Yes. Okay.
This underwear takes up quite a bit of space.
It does. Yeah, as you see, this little slip is actually Victoria's. It's flat on the front and it's gathered in the back. So, okay. So we have this much room. And let's see. Just going to pull both of these strings, and I left them long.
And use good quality thread for this, or you're going to have the last thing you want is it to break when you're working on it.
Right. Okay, if I can show this here. So this is where I want it to close, like that.
So you're going to pin it?
So I'm going to pin it there too. And then pull this. And then you can adjust these pleats a bit. Okay, so I've got it pretty much.
And it looks beautiful.
To her. And then this is the part where now you can, I cut these a little shorter to make them easier to handle. And then tie them off.
That's going to work great.
Oh, come on now. Because you're filming me, I can't tie a knot.
I do this with everybody.
Goodness. And I've got a gimpy hand here, which we haven't talked about, but okay.
Well, we won't talk about it.
We don't have to, otherwise that's all they're going to look at.
We're just trying to hold it together. We're standing in the ruins of Tara, trying to make the world a better place, one dress
one dress at a time. Okay, so there.
I mean, I think you're a trooper to do this with.
It's fine. I'm fine. I just don't look so pretty. Okay, so there we've got a.
That's a beautiful
fitting
fit, and
around
it looks great in the back.
Her waist.
Fabulous. Let me get up there and let's see. I love to do cartridge pleating. I think it's so elegant.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it just works so well, does what it's supposed to do. Yeah. Okay, so the next thing we'll be putting on the waistband. And let me see, I started, and this you'll measure your doll's waist and then give it, another 3/4 of an inch or so.
Yeah, because we can't tell them exactly because their dolls all have different, but we can tell them the width.
So this is about an inch or so wide.
Okay.
And then I've folded over, 1/4 inch or so, and press that down, and the ends as well, and then just sew it. You're going to sew it as its own piece,
right? And
then we'll sew it onto the waistband
because
area.
This is also making it stronger too, by doing that.
Right.
So can we measure what the finished width of this waistband is for them?
Oh, the length here,
or the width.
Here.
The width.
Right here, yes. Looks 1/4 of an inch-ish to me. Yeah, it's 1/4 of an inch.
Okay.
And it can be wider. You can cut, and I think that's kind of the beauty of cutting your own fabric too. You can cut it a little wider if you like.
Sure.
No problem.
But this is good for the amount of bulk that we have to have this smaller.
Yes, and we don't need a very wide waistband. No. I mean, if you want, then that's fine.
And so you're going to just whip it closed?
Yes, I'm whipping it closed. I started on the short end and whipping it closed. I'm going to try it on her now that I've fit. Here, now that I fit the skirt to her, then I'll really, put it around her. And what we're going to end up with is a little extra.
And that's all right.
A little extra here.
So we can always
like
clip it
this.
or fold it.
Well, it is a little extra anyway. Well,
because this doll may not. She's just your your model, so she may not be wearing this. This dress may go to somebody else.
It might. This is what I mean, like,
Right.
and this one is a little wider actually.
Well, this was your prototype.
But it's just, yeah. So it will
and that makes a nice
stick out a little
place
bit.
to put your hook.
And then Victoria, this is the loop I used for Victoria, and this is the loop I sewed another one for her because her waist was a little bit bigger. And then there's another hook and loop halfway down to help that opening stay closed.
Yeah, because it's on the side, isn't it?
Yes.
All right, so we will get the waistband sewed on, and we'll come back and show you how it turned out. Or no, we'll show them how to do this. Shouldn't we?
Can do that.
So we'll get most of the. We're trying not to. If we showed all of this in real time, it would be like Gone with the Wind, just with the flounces.
Well, I hope that we can.
10 hours.
I hope that we can show some of the, just specific things, like little odder things. But yeah, we don't want Gone with an intermission.
We'll have them walk out.
Exit music. Here I'm attaching the waistband, and remember we made it as a separate piece. And then you'll just put it edge to edge and an overstitch like this. So from here to here, I put it even on this side with the placket. And now we're coming to the cartridge pleating. And I hope that you can see.
It's a little difficult because of the color.
So I've done, you're going to pick up the loop that's closest to the waistband. And, okay, so I think I did that loop, and now just catch the edge of it and catch the edge of the waistband.
And take your time with this.
Oh, yes.
This is the one thing that you really need to.
And then pull it. And then I'm trying to see it too. Okay, and then
because basically that cartridge pleating and the whole waistband is going to hang off the edge.
Hang off it. That's right. And then take the next. And if you get through, check, and then you check it. If you've dropped any of the edge loops, just take a stitch, and it'll be fine, no problem.
But it's a good idea to check every few before you get too far into it. All right, well, we'll finish this, and we will come back for the next step.
Yeah, and I hope that makes sense.
Yes, I think it does.
Catching the edge of the loop with the edge of the band.
They always look like a little Elizabethan ruffs, don't they?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And here we have the waistband finished with all of the cartridge pleating picked and sewn, and then you just keep stitching it over like that.
And this is the flat front,
right? That's just a thread until you get to the end.
And I like the little tab with the hook. I think that's great.
And then you flip it over and press it flat.
So Denise, can you show me the back side again? Or show
right
us?
Here?
Yeah, so we just leave the lower edge just raw. We don't do anything to that.
No.
No. Okay.
No, there's enough. You don't want more bulk.
No, and that would create it. All right. Great, so we'll be back to show, we're going to start on the top next, aren't we?
Well, we can just, maybe I already did, but we can, then there's a hook there, and then measure on your doll where the thread loop should be, and then there's another one here.
Perfect.
And then you're through with the skirt.
Perfect. Okay, we'll be back with the top.
Okay.
Jacket.
next layer for this.
Well, because that was my oopsie.
What?
That was my oopsie that we were supposed
to do the jacket?
Yeah, we're just going to go right into the jacket.
Well,
but we need to do this next.
I think so. I think as you're layering the costume, I mean, why fit a jacket and then you put something else under it and maybe the fit isn't right anymore. So, so we'll cut out, this is, the pattern is on the fold. You cut it out and it looks like this. And it looks, it looks kind of strange. I think you said that in the very beginning.
Well, it looks strange, but I understand what it is.
Yeah, and here's the fold. And there are some folds that you're going, 3 little folds that you're going to do on the side, which you can follow here. And
it's interesting, Denise, that these shapes that you've done, if you were doing fabulous Polonaise draperies, you would do the same thing. Create this kind of space.
And then fold it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we first? First you want to do these little folds, and you can see them here gathered here and on the other side. So it's just the fabric's folded up, and the next one is folded up, and then the next one is folded up.
And I always find if you don't understand that in fabric, fold the pattern piece first.
Oh, you can do that, right.
And then you understand.
Until you like it, see where you like it. And then the next thing is that these sides are folded over quarter of an inch, twice, and sewn down.
Excuse me.
Little hem stitch down on either side.
Okay.
And then the bottom, we're not folding it back, we're folding it up to the right side. And then you're going to put a ruffle, which is just like the skirt. When we did the skirt, it's just like that.
Same thing.
Same thing. And I'll use this. This is the Polonaise that we made for Victoria. And then you're going to place it. This is the sew line right below the light blue. And that's placed about an inch above, and that's marked on the pattern also. And you can see how it hangs. This one really hangs down over the
it's dramatic.
The bottom. It's a little bit more here than on the sides, a little bit more in the front. And then you'll sew another line down, about an inch down, the way you did on the front skirt, and that little stitch will be right at the edge here.
Okay.
But see, you don't have a raw edge sticking over.
Right.
So folding it towards the front is very nice. And then again, there's a waistband. This, however, is not a separate waistband in and of itself. You place the fabric, sew, fold it over, and then hem it down.
This is an easy peasy.
Easy. I rigged this. Her waist was a little bit bigger because Victoria's doing something else now, so we had to use another doll, and well,
she's had enough of this.
I just did that, and it fits, and it.
Yeah, but they're going to make it to their
But
doll.
you're going to make it exactly to your doll. And this one there's a little tuck here and a little tuck in the waist. If I had done this for Victoria. If I were doing this for her, I would not tuck it, and it would fit better.
Flat.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
I agree.
there's a tuck on the pattern, but if you don't need that tuck, you don't need it.
Okay.
It's fine. And then when you put it on, it will drape kind
Almost
of up like it just does it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
yeah.
it just does it.
Yeah.
And when you put the ruffle on, you might think, well, what about this? It just does this as you put the ruffle goes on and you fold it to the edge of the Polonaise.
And you let it stick out that way it is.
It's folded, the edge is folded under, and then it's folded like this. And this will just sort of happen.
And that's going to meet in the back and create an extra interest, I think.
Mm-hmm. So there's
Well, look how great that looks, with your tucks or your pleats. Looks great.
So there's a hook at the waist, and then there's another hook right above the ruffle here.
Perfect.
So that's the
That's
Polonaise.
Yes.
And obviously, we're saying if there are any questions,
They can put them in the comments.
you can put them in the comments, or you can email us.
Yeah.
Absolutely happy.
So Denise, as you said, this is a costume that is doable, but it takes time.
It just takes time. There are a lot of stitches.
Yeah.
And as we said before, it's really a plain pattern. It's just the decoration.
Embellishments.
And we were talking about, pleated instead of a ruffle, box pleats. You could do it in a plaid type of design, and then the ruffles on the bias the plaid could be going, like that. I mean, it could be very pretty. Do all sorts of
wonderful
things with
variations.
it. You can change the jacket shape by
very,
changing the pattern.
Very easy.
So I think it's a good basic pattern that you can do a lot of things with.
Okie dokie. So now we'll be back.
We'll look at the jacket.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get that set up and we'll be right back.
Remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button.